Hey, so you know that OpenAI has a lot of APIs, right? And in this video, I'd like to show you what I think is the most underrated API of all of them, the Vision API. If you've seen my other videos, you know that I'm using the Vision API in almost all of them, and I have found a lot of use cases for the Vision API. So in this video, I'd like to show you some of the use cases I found. I think one of the reasons why the Vision API is flying a bit under the radar is because it is difficult to try out. It's not like ChatGPT where you can go to the website, sign in and just try it out. So in this video, I'm also showing you a way how you can try out the Vision API for free. And I'm showing you how I've set up this test using Airtable and Make. So you can offer this as a service to a client or just use it for yourself. So why isn't the Vision API as popular as, say, ChatGPT, for example? Well, OpenAI doesn't really mention it on their website at all. Only once you start looking at the documentation, there's a mentioning of it here. And another reason why I think the Vision API isn't as popular as, say, ChatGPT is something like this. Super simple classification is what most people think about when they hear computer vision, right? Dog, cat, and they probably think that it fails a lot and isn't really any good. But what I'm talking about is something like this. This is the image that I've given the Vision API to describe, and this over here is the description that I've gotten back. I'm not going to read it to you because you can pause the video and read it for yourself, but I would just like to emphasize how detailed this description is. And it doesn't just describe the objects in an image, it also describes the mood of the image, the lighting, the background, you know, what the person feels, and all sorts of other really impressive things. So where have I been using the Vision API? If you check out my channel, you will find examples in almost every video. In my Printify automation video, I'm using it to create a product description based on the motif that I'm placing on the print-on-demand product. So I'm saving myself the trouble of describing what the image is and what it looks like. I'm just passing it over to the Vision API, telling it to describe it in detail, and then I'm using a ChatGPT action to create a product description based on what the Vision API has been able to see in the image. This usually describes my print-on-demand motifs way better than I would have ever been able to do. In this video, I'm using the Vision API to extract data from websites, so basically for web scraping. Instead of parsing the HTML from a website, which is error-prone and can change a lot, I'm just taking a full-screen screenshot of the entire web page. Then I pass this on to the Vision API and tell it to extract prices for these flights, for example. This way, the HTML, the CSS classes, and so on can change all they want. As long as the information is presented in a way that the human eye would be able to see it, the Vision API can see it as well. And yes, you can tell the Vision API to respond in JSON format and just extract certain information it finds in a screenshot. So I'm leaving timestamps in the description of this video so you can jump into my other videos if you want to check out how I'm doing this in detail. Another quite popular video where I'm using the Vision API is this Instagram automation that I've created. So here I'm too lazy to post to Instagram, and what I'm doing here is I just upload an image to a Make automation. That Make automation runs the image through the Vision API and comes back with a detailed description. One example is this image of a daily specials board, where it was able to extract the handwritten text that is on there and can then copy over the handwritten text from the whiteboard in your image captions. Fully automated, of course. And lastly, I'm using it in quite a similar way in my AI influencer automation tutorial, where I'm also using the Vision API to create image captions for the social media postings of my AI influencer, which I'm too lazy to write myself. And when I was setting this up, that I noticed that the Vision API was able to pick up this tiny little Nike logo here on her shorts and all the other great detailed information that it comes back with when it describes an image such as this one. So how can you try out the Vision API without knowing how to code? So for the most simple way I've been able to come up with, we have to jump into Airtable. As you can see here, I've created a super simple Airtable that just has a column for attachments, an email, and a prompt. And you might or might not know that you can change the appearance of an Airtable. If you look in the down left corner, you can see that you can also create a form to input stuff into that Airtable. That is precisely what I have done. I have created a super simple form that just has an input field for a prompt if you want to change it. The default is just describe this image. Then a field where you can upload an image and an email address where the description that the Vision API has created will be sent to. You can super easily modify these forms with Airtable's drag and drop interface, and you can either share these forms freely on the web with a link, or you can embed them into websites. This is an example where I have embedded the Airtable form into a website. The white space is where the embedded Airtable form lives. All right, and how can you use this form to try out the Vision API? Well, I didn't just want to post a link to the form anywhere. I wanted to create a little bit of friction because I only have 100 automations in my Airtable plan. So this is the way to do it. You can write me an email to this email address, didai-do-that@gmail.com, with the word vision in the subject. Then I will respond to that email with a link to the Airtable form where you can then upload your image and try out the Vision API. Now, pinky swear, I will not use this to harvest emails. I will not use this to spam you. I will not use this to send you a newsletter. I have a newsletter that you can subscribe to if you want to, but you don't have to. Of course, please keep in mind that I will be able to see the image. Airtable will be able to see the image. OpenAI will be able to see the image. Gmail will be able to see the image. Everybody in between will be able to see the image. So please act responsibly. All right, so you can send me an email. You will get back a link. With this link, you can upload the image and you will get the OpenAI vision description back immediately. So how did I set this up? Well, if you worked with Make.com before, you know this is rather straightforward. One little problem that I ran into is the instant trigger. So all my other scenarios involving an Airtable usually don't trigger immediately. They search for new records once a day or once an hour maybe. But in this case, I wanted to have an instant trigger. Every time the form is submitted, I wanted to have a reaction as quickly as possible. And if you've worked with Make before, you know the best way to do this is with a webhook. So I needed to find a way for the Airtable to trigger a Make webhook. And as you can see here, Airtable can actually do this, but only in the paid Pro plan, which I'm too cheap to pay for. So I was looking for another way to do this, and I found one. The workaround I found was this, because luckily Make supports two different types of webhooks. One is the original webhook that is triggered when a URL is called, and the other is called a Mailhook that is triggered when an email is received. So when you create one of these Mailhooks, Make creates a unique email address just for this webhook. Once you create it, it is saved and it waits for incoming email to get triggered. Now let's jump over into Airtable in the Automations tab and see how we can automate the form that we've built using this Mailhook. First, we need to have a trigger inside of Airtable as well that does something inside of Airtable when a new form is submitted. So if you want to create this from scratch, you just add to create an automation, and then you click Add Trigger, and then you choose the condition when this trigger should be triggered. Trigger should be triggered? Yeah. So I chose when a form is submitted. Then you just need to select the table that you want to base this on, and then the form that we've just created to input the image. And next we can pick the action that it should do when the form is submitted and the trigger is triggered. So we have a bunch of options: create records, updates. We don't want to do this. What we want to do is we want to send an email. And I thought this is super easy. I just paste in the email of the Mailhook that I've created inside of Make and I'm done, right? Wrong. Now, unfortunately, it isn't as simple as this. Because of that, Airtable isn't stupid either. They don't allow calling webhooks in the standard plan, and they don't allow just sending to any email in the standard plan. So I would have to add the email of the Mailhook as a collaborator on my billing plan. And guess what? You can't have collaborators in the basic plan, only in the paid plan. So how did I get around this? As you can see here, it's perfectly all right to send such a trigger notification to the email that you use up to sign into your Airtable account. And luckily, I can now set up a filter inside of Gmail that takes specific emails coming from my Airtable account and forwards only them to my Make.com email webhook. Now, setting up a new filter in Gmail isn't super difficult to do. You just go into settings, filters, and then you create a new filter. Then what you do is you take the Airtable sending address, you select some sort of keyword in the subject field, and then you tell the filter to forward it to the Make.com webhook email. Now, the only little complication that you have here is that you have to add the webhook email as a forwarding email address inside of Gmail. And since Gmail doesn't want to let you spam anyone, you will have to confirm the email as a forwarding address once in order to be able to use it. So in order to do that, you go into settings again, forwarding, and add the email as a forwarding email. Gmail will send a confirmation notice to that email address, which you then have to confirm. And the easiest way I found how to do this was to add a second step after the email webhook. I'm just sending an email to some other address with the subject confirm me, and what I'm sending in the email is the text that I'm receiving in the email webhook. And that text will contain the confirmation URL that you will have to click once in order to confirm this email webhook address as a forwarding address inside of Gmail. I hope you're still able to follow along. So you will only need to run this scenario once in this configuration to confirm the webhook email as a forwarding address inside of your Gmail account. After that, you can delete that Gmail step again, and the email webhook will continue working as the forwarding address. Now, once you've done this, this is what my scenario looks like. I have added a parse JSON step after the webhook to extract the email that I've received from the Airtable submission and the prompt that somebody might have entered. So for that, I'm just parsing the text that we've received in the email webhook. Next, we are using the analyze images action from an OpenAI module. We are feeding it the prompt that we've received from the email webhook, and we are mapping the image file that we have received in the email webhook. Now you can of course play around with the advanced settings, but I would just leave it as is. And finally, I'm sending back the description of the image as an email to the person who has submitted the Airtable form. So for that, we will pass in the email that we have received from the email webhook, choosing any subject line that we like. And here where it says content, we will paste in choices message content, which will be the description of the image that we have passed to the Vision API. Finally, down here, I'm sending back again the image that was submitted and the file name. Just for good measure, you could also leave this out. Now, if you want to save yourself some time creating this make scenario and setting up that Airtable, you can buy a copy of both in my shop. The link is in the video description. The shop is lazyandroid.gumroad.com. You will receive a copy of this Airtable base with the automation and the form, and you will receive a copy of this make scenario that you can then just hook up to your Airtable account and your Gmail account, paste in an OpenAI key that you have created, and everything will work as you have seen it here today. And again, you can embed the form of this Airtable into basically any website that allows you to embed code and run it as a service for your clients or your company or whatever. You can even offer this as an app. You basically just have to create a WebKit wrapper that loads up this embedded form. So I hope I was able to show you why I think that the Vision API is really awesome and that there are lots of possibilities of things that you can do with it. Of course, you can extend that make scenario endlessly, right? So in the other videos I've showed you, I'm creating product descriptions from the image description. I'm creating captions for social media posts with it. You could tell it to extract certain information from photos of certain forms or any other image material that you might come across. Please let me know if you need any help with modifying these scenarios, or if you have any use cases in mind that I haven't come across. I would love to hear what you have come up with. So thank you, and please check out my other videos if you like.